Good afternoon, and welcome back to another Q&A session. And today we're going to be talking about the sort of following questions that I've got prepared. So we've got, where can I attach a resistance band to? Should I train with disc degeneration and sciatica? What is a good or bad pain after training? And a little bit about why runners should be training legs. And then any other questions that you ask live during the session. So for anyone who hasn't seen these before, my name's Chris. I'm a physiotherapist and I am here to try and help answer any questions you have about either getting started with strength training as an older adult, or if you've already got started but you've got a few sticking points that you want to work through, then I'd be happy to try and help you through that. So you'll either be watching this on YouTube or Facebook. So if you're watching on YouTube, there's a live chat feature. Just type your questions in the chat and then I'll see them come up here. Equally on Facebook, you can just use the comments underneath the video. You may well be watching this as a replay, in which case just use the comments and you'll be able to, I'll check those in a future week, or within the week, and then I'll answer those next week. So they're always at 12 o'clock on Wednesdays. So for now, I'm going to get straight into the first question. So for anyone who sort of seen anything I do, you'll know that as well as using weights, a very underutilized bit of kit I find are these resistance bands, particularly if you are working out from home. If you're in the gym, you might be using a cable machine, which is probably a slightly better option, but obviously if you're at home, you won't have the cable machine to be able to use. So the bands create a great option because weights will only work in a downwards direction with gravity, whereas a resistance band could be anchored to different heights and you can use that tension in that direction. So it opens up a load more opportunities. As a just point of interest, I'm always curious to know, out of anyone watching, where you do work out. So if you just comment below with home or gym, and I'd love to sort of see a kind of ratio of how many people are working out at home to how many people are working out in the gym. But if you're in the gym, and when I'm working with clients in the clinic, I have a squat rack that is fixed to the wall. So I have a big vertical point that I can kind of put that round, and then I've got a nice anchor point that I can then start doing resistance exercises from. If you're at home, you're very unlikely to have a fixed squat rack, so that's not an option. So it then leaves a question of, where do you anchor your resistance band to that is going to be secure, so you can actually start to put some good sort of resistance against it without this coming towards you. So some people think about table legs, but you need quite a sturdy table leg or sturdy table to be able to fix it to without that then sliding towards you or feeling like you might damage the actual leg or break the leg of the table. For the same reason, chairs aren't particularly good, because they're so light. As soon as you pull with any resistance, they're going to pull towards you. You can use door handles, and you might be able to see here. I don't know, mine is quite a rickety door handle. I wouldn't feel comfortable pulling against that door handle, because at some point I may well break that door handle. And so yeah, I wouldn't necessarily trust that. So we're kind of running out of options there. So the one I do suggest to people that they can try is the bottom of a banister, and you tend to have one at the bottom that is a bit thicker. That is solid, it's not going to go anywhere. However, one of the exercises I tend to recommend is a trunk rotation, where you're going all the way around. So you actually need quite a lot of space at the bottom of your staircase, and I know in my stairs I haven't got that space in my hallway, possibly at the top of the landing. But yeah, whilst I've got a sturdy point, I haven't got the space to use around it. So just wanted, because a lot of people don't actually kind of realise these exist, or even know, sometimes they know, seen them, but they haven't quite known what they're for. But these are what we call resistance band door anchors, and they're really useful bit of kit. So basically you've got this foam stopper on one end, and on the other end you've got a loop. So we can thread that through the loop. So easy if I just show you. So should still work. Hopefully you'll still be able to hear me. I'll just bring that over. You can put these over the top of a door and then shut the door, and you've got that nice solid anchor point. But what people don't often realise, you can also put them, sometimes a bit fiddly to do initially, but around the side of the door there, and that is then a nice solid anchor point that you can have at any height. So you could even put it at the bottom of the door, and you can do some where you do these knee extensions where you put a chair in front. Again, around this height, I can then start doing my rotations. I can pull in there, so yeah, I can put in that through, and then I've got my sort of trunk rotations there. I can create a small loop, bring the long length through, and then I can start doing trunk rotations through. So yeah, lots of different anchors, but it's really useful because you just find a door where you've got lots of space around you. What I wouldn't do is probably pull into a door this way. I'd like to be the other side of the door, so I'm pushing the door frame into the door into the door frame. But yeah, if you are working out from home, then that is a great option. I say if you are in the gym, you can use the resistance bands, but I would tend to go for the cable machines because it's a little easier to track how much weight you're using and therefore how you're progressing. So yeah, door anchors. I have put a link to where you can find these on Amazon in the description. They're only they should be within about £5. There's not. Sometimes they come as packs of 2 rather than 1, so just careful with how many you're buying. But yeah, a bit of kit that I definitely recommend that everyone has if you are using resistance bands at home. Let's see, had Maggie. So hi Maggie. So Maggie, for anyone who doesn't know, is one of our regulars that comes every week. So Maggie says, I have a home gym and prefer to work out there, but I've also joined a gym for strength classes. Yeah, it'd be interesting, Maggie, if you've used one of these before or whether you kind of have a different approach to where you attach those to. So let's put that away. So, next question. So this came through on Facebook. So I put a question on Facebook saying, do you have any questions about strength training as an older adult? So this person said, should I be doing it with degenerative discs and sciatica? So first thing I should say is this, please take this as more general advice. Please don't take this as any personalised specific advice to you. Clearly, without having assessed you or know any of the background of your symptoms and your history, I can't give any specific advice here. So there's kind of just a kind of caveat to all this. If you have got any concerns, do reach out to a physiotherapist or medical professional to discuss this further. But my view on this, I'm going to bring up this chart just to kind of answer this. So this was from a study of people who have never had any kind of significant episodes of back pain in their life. So they're symptom free, they're not experiencing any symptoms of back pain. They were all placed through an MRI scanner, and all the findings in that left-hand column are some of the things you commonly see, and if you see at the top, that includes that disc degeneration or that degenerative discs that you talked about. Now, if we look, the other columns, they've listed the results in people in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, all the way up to the 80s. Even in their 20s, over a third of people had disc degeneration that they didn't know about. So they had this disc degeneration, but it wasn't causing them symptoms. that quickly jumps up to half of people, or over half of people, at the age of 30. As we go into 40s, it's all the way up to 68%, and then from 50s and beyond, it's 80% plus. So, again, 80% of people in their 50s and 88% of people in their 60s have disc degeneration and aren't experiencing any pain. Some people, when you have disc degeneration, may well start to experience a little bit of pain. But the reason I show this is it's completely feasible that you can get to a point of having it without the pain. Now, if we look at some of the other things I list there, so disc bulge is quite a common one that people think about and fear. And disc protrusion is commonly thought of, or commonly referred to, as a slip disc. So people who have slip disc or have sciatica are commonly fearful that it might be due to a disc protrusion or slip disc. But again, if we look at, say, 50s and 60s, so if we go to 60s, 38% of people who have never had pain have got a slip disc that they didn't know they had. And then sometimes what happens is they go on to get back pain for another reason, have an MRI, find this slip disc, and then automatically assume it must be due to that. And then they start to kind of be fearful of their back, which I'm getting off the point slightly, but it's again completely feasible that you can have a disc protrusion or a slip disc without having any pain. So even if it is the thing that's causing the pain and causing your sciatica now, it can settle to the point where you're not getting any pain. Now, as a physiotherapist, I work with lots of people who have back pain, who have had MRIs and have a lot of these findings, and a lot of people who've got sciatica with their back pain. And what my aims are as a physiotherapist is to try and get people more mobile around their back and a lot stronger around their back. And this will inevitably eventually lead to some form of strength training. Again, initially that might not look like what you'd expect to see in a gym in terms of deadlifts and squats, but eventually it will do. If I can give someone the confidence to do that, then that's a route I will go down. And generally, building strength and doing strength training when you've got disc degeneration and sciatica has the potential to be really positive, to build the strength, reduce your symptoms, and reduce the risk of another flare-up or incidence of these pains. However, having got sciatica, and more so the sciatica than the degenerative discs, the process of doing strength training might be too much for it to tolerate, and it could cause a flare-up of your sciatica by trying to do it. So the important thing is we take things slowly, we really strip things down to basics initially, try and go through some gentle bodyweight movements first, see if it can tolerate that. Then if it does, we can add a little bit of weight, and then we can add a little bit of weight more, and eventually over time get to the point where you're working out with weight that's sufficient enough to push your muscles to fatigue. It's going to be a slow process, because if you take big jumps, the chances are your sciatica is going to really flare up, and then it's going to take a while to settle or even get to a manageable level, and it's going to sort of derail your progress, and you'll get weaker in the meantime. So yeah, you do have to be really careful, but yeah, strengthening is often a thing that people feared, or strength-based training, or going to the gym. If you've got degenerative disc or sciatica, or you've any of the other things on that list that you've seen and you suddenly realise are there, it can be scary. So the temptation is to do less and keep rest and protect the back. But actually you then get weaker around the back, and then that leads to more problems that could occur. So we do want to get stronger. Often, say, even if you can't get fully rid of the symptoms, they're less when you have more strength around the back, the legs, the whole body in general. So I realise that, again, that is more generic advice. It's very difficult when I don't know much about your individual information, but if anyone is watching this that has any kind of follow-up questions on that, then please do leave those below, whether you're watching this live or as a replay, and I will try and get back to those at a later point. So let's get rid of that there. I thought I'd take a just a very quick break from the questions, just to remind people, if they are interested in learning more about how to get started with strength training as an older adult and learn how they can put together a program, choose their exercises and work out how many reps and sets and what weight they should be using, then I've got a completely free ebook here that you can download. So it's nevertooldtolift.com/start-here. And that link is in the description below. And equally, that is available as a paperback on Amazon. If you just search Never Too Old to Lift on Amazon, you will find that there. So again, if you do have any questions and you're watching this live, then please do use a chat feature and I will bring your question up on screen. But for the moment, I've got 2 more questions that I have prepared, ready for this, that are kind of more from the clinic these ones this week. So yeah, I had someone come into the clinic this week and we were talking about a history behind exercise and how it relates to the pain that she came in with. And she's very active, has done a lot of tennis and does gym classes such as yoga and Pilates. And I asked whether she's ever done any kind of gym-based stuff in terms of resistance training. And she talked about the fact that she'd tried it a couple of times sporadically in the past, and each time she did, she felt an ache and discomfort in the days afterwards that felt really disconcerting and felt like she's probably not a good thing to be doing if you're getting pain. So she just stopped and never really carried on, and she carried on with what she knows and what she's been comfortable doing. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of explore that with people, and I don't know if that's kind of familiar with some people watching, and if you've had that, and if so, let me know in the comments below. But a lot of people I work with have this, where you do your workout and then you have some pain in the next week to follow and got completely put off with it, and it's suddenly, if you've been things on the legs, it's hard to sit down to the toilet or to a chair and get back up again, and that can't possibly be a good thing. So they just assume strength training isn't for them, they're not designed for it, and they leave it and they just stick with yoga and Pilates and other things along those lines, which again, great forms of exercise, particularly when combined with strength training, but they won't build muscle strength as such. So I just wanted to talk about what you can expect if you do get into strength training, and if you are trying to get started and you take quite a big jump up with suddenly doing things with weights that you're not used to, it is completely normal normally it doesn't start till maybe the next day, but often it's a day after that, is you suddenly find that the muscles you've been working really start to begin to ache, and particularly when you're using them in a similar way. So for those who have done squats, if you then go to try and squat down to a chair or down to the toilet, the legs really feel quite sore and it's hard to actually get down. And that is actually quite a positive thing, in the sense that it shows that you worked your muscles sufficiently enough for them to, we almost break them down slightly, so over the next few days they start to repair, and they repair stronger. And if you don't ever get to that point, you're not necessarily getting stronger by doing what you're doing. But equally, if the DOMs are so severe that it really then impedes your day-to-day activities over the next few days, then we don't want that either. But know that it's not a bad thing. It's positive in terms of building strength, but there are ways to mitigate the DOMs and try and reduce them. So if anyone is just getting started, I tend to recommend you just start with getting confident with the exercises first, then adding a little bit of weight, and add a little bit of weight, and then after a few weeks add a little bit more until you get to the point where you're really pushing to fatigue. And because you've kind of worked up slowly rather than taking a big step up, you tend to find, whilst you may well still get your DOMs and the aches, they're a lot less severe. They're more of just an awareness that you've worked, and your awareness you've got an ache the next day when you are trying to get up and down, but they're not debilitating. And sort of really stop you doing some of the things you want to do and then make you fearful of doing your next workout. So that is one way to do it. The other thing people say, once you've got your ache, there's a few things that people try and reduce the severity of them. So again, that could be, I mean, the best thing to do is actually move and start to do light workout. Maybe go on if it is the legs, maybe go on the bike and keep the legs moving. Movement tends to ease some of it, and when you're still for a while, you tend to find it stiffens up again. And for anyone, common one I tend to get if I haven't done any for a while and I suddenly do some upper body, is the next morning or a couple of mornings later I can barely straighten my elbows and it feels kind of sore in the biceps and I can't quite get there. And then once I've moved it actually feels okay for a bit, but as soon as I'm still for kind of another 10-20 minutes again and I go to straighten again, it feels like it's just set back in again. So as much as you can, keep moving. That's a positive one and a good thing to do. Some people use heat, some people use ice. Heat can sometimes relax the muscles, ice can sometimes have a numbing effect to make them feel a bit more comfortable. A lot of it is personal preference. Some use a kind of combination of the two. Massage can start to give a bit of short-term relief from the DOMS, which then makes you more comfortable to move, and then the movement helps and it all kind of adds in with each other. But if you've already got the DOMS, that can be something that's useful. And again, anyone watching, I'd be interested to hear what your best solutions to DOMS or that muscle ache afterwards is. So comment below with your best kind of approach to reducing those. But the thing we then need to look at is other pains you might get after a workout. So generally, if the ache is in the muscles, then it's likely to be DOMS, this delayed onset muscle soreness. However, if it's not kind of all over the muscle, it's one side feels fine and the other side feels achy, but the ache's in a very specific place and it's not so much an ache, it's more of a kind of sharp pain, then it might be that there's something else going on there and you really need to kind of just sort of take a break and just ease back in again and just really monitor how that is next time. Again, if it's just a general ache around all the muscle, then it's probably the DOMS. If your ache or pain is deep in a joint and not in the muscles, then that is probably something we just need to have a look at. We might need to adapt to the exercise variations you've picked or what your total volume is, and we might need to kind of modify things. Equally, if the pain is in your tendons, so maybe the Achilles tendon, the pain at the front of the knee, which is the patella tendon, again, some of the ones in the elbow. Tendons can follow a similar pattern where you get this delayed response of pain after they've been worked more than they perhaps should have been. But generally you don't get DOMS in the tendon. The DOMS tend to be in the muscle. So if it is tendon pain, if we want to kind of keep an eye on that and monitor it and maybe adapt it, because if you keep continually pushing through, that tendon pain might become a lot more acute and sensitive that then starts to limit your day-to-day more than just a few days and come beyond that. So yeah, generally a good ache after a workout is in the muscles. It is a positive thing because your muscles are repairing because you push them sufficiently enough. And there are some people who feel disappointed if they don't actually get an ache or DOMS following their workout. They almost feel like they haven't worked hard enough. So it's kind of this almost like sadistic type pain that is a positive pain that you feel disappointed for not achieving. But equally, like I say, I don't think you should aim to make that as severe as you can. You do want to try and manage it slightly. But yeah, the pains we want to just really take note of is joint pain or tendon pain, or if you've had an injury in the past and it's starting to feel like it's a flare up of that pain again, then they're the ones not to ignore and continue to push through. We want to back off a little bit if we want there, and that again, you might want to then start looking at a physio or something. And it ties in with the previous question of sort of sciatica. If the muscles feel fine, but the sciatica often is, so sciatica is not necessarily inflammation, but it's sensitivity of the sciatic nerve that runs down the back of the leg. could be because of that slip disc or disc protrusion. It can just be tight muscles around the nerve that cause a restriction, but for some reason it's aggravated. And if you then start to do an exercise and it really flares up, don't necessarily think that's a good thing like the DOMS is. It's something that's likely to continue to flare up if you can push through it, and it's then going to impede you day to day, so we want to back off a little bit. So yeah, hopefully that has kind of resonated with anyone. But if, again, any questions, or if you have any specific pains that you're not sure about, then do write them in the comments and I will check those for next week. And that brings me on to one last thing. So last question. So if you do have a question for me, please do write it and I'll answer it afterwards. If not, then this will be the last one. So again, it wasn't so much a question, but yet another patient, and I actually had two this week that had some similar story, where they were telling me about their knee pain, and they were telling me about their history of exercise again and all the things they do. And they talk about, so this, one of them was a runner and one of them plays tennis, and they were talking about the fact that they run 3 times a week, or they played, I think the other one played tennis 3 times a week, and they go to the gym, and then when I questioned what they did in the gym, they said they mainly do weights, which for me is obviously my bias, so I was quite happy with that. And then when I explored the weights they did further, they then went on to say, I'm aware that I don't do any upper body with my running, so I just focus on my upper body. My legs get enough work, so I don't do my legs. Don't worry, I'm not overworking them. And they thought it'd be a good thing I'd be impressed with, that they were not working out because they perceive their running to be enough for their legs, and they thought they didn't need to do anything more and they should just do the upper body. And I thought I'd just, again, bring my opinion on that here, because there's plenty of people that have that, and which is completely rational thinking and understanding, that you think that you already do too much on the legs, so we'll save those in the gym to keep them fresh for running. And that's a common thought process. My argument would be, if you're running, you're using your legs and you're having a lot of impact coming through the floor every step you take when you run. Stronger legs create a smoother suspension system, so it creates this kind of nice smooth absorption and recoil. So the more of the force and the impact the muscles absorb, they shield the tendons and the joints from that impact, and they also create a more efficient sort of movement for running. So you're likely to be able to run for longer, potentially faster, because your muscles are more efficient. Because what happens is, when they start to fatigue, rather than getting that nice smooth absorption and recoil, you get more of a kind of a stiffening that happens. That the stiffening is to try and create stability, but it then means that there's no absorption of that impact or force, so more of it gets transferred through to the joint and the tendon. And that's why often runners can start to come in with knee or pain or Achilles tendon pain, is because a lot of it is they've got weakness in one of the muscle groups, in one of the legs somewhere, and actually by building strength in all those muscles and making sure they're all as strong as they can be, suddenly they find they get a lot less pain with their running. So if you are doing a sport that involves a lot of jumping, landing, change of direction, running, and that need to absorb impact, then training your legs in the gym will give you a better ability to do that, which means you're then likely to be more efficient in the sport that you do. So not only will it make you more robust and resilient and less likely to have an injury, you could arguably be more efficient at the sport you're doing and actually get better results. I still think you should be targeting the upper body as well. But again, the other argument for a runner, if you just target the upper body without the legs, you potentially add muscle mass to the upper body, therefore weighing slightly more, with legs that aren't as strong as they could be. And then you've got even more impact going through that leg that needs to be absorbed. So that's kind of another counter argument there. But again, if you know anyone that's the same, that all they do is run, all they do is play sport and they don't do any training, particularly if they started to experience some aches and pains, then maybe send them this portion of the video or the link to this video, just to challenge their thoughts on that. And again, if you agree with me or you've got any counter arguments for me, then please again do put those in the comments below. But with that brings me to the end of this live. So if you are watching, I'm just going to quickly run through a couple more links. So you've got last minute or two to ask a question. If not, then again, reminder, the free ebook that you can download, and that link is in the description. Also available from Amazon. I also run it as a course format, so you can come and join the online course, sort of video-based course where you'll also have access to me on a weekly group Zoom call. So that link is there and also in the description below. But again, yeah, for anyone watching the replay, do leave a question, because I will check in the week and I will come back to you in the next week's one, so 12 o'clock next Wednesday. And for now, if you have found any value in this, please do take a second and just click the thumbs up button underneath the video. And if you haven't already, just click subscribe to make sure that you get informed of next week's Q&A session and each week as I do them. And I'd love to see you there. But for now, have a great week, and I will see you next week.